Hello, it is the Anfield Wrap after Liverpool 2, Brighton and Hove Albion 0. I'm Beth Lindop, joined today by Kieran, by Jake Nolan and by Stewart. Nice to be here discussing a win. I'm in as a late hosting substitute for Neil Atkinson, who's currently got the super flu, but I'm back in the hosting saddle, and if you want to get back in the saddle, then why don't you try Peloton?
It's good, that.
Thank you.
Awesome.
The Anfield Wrap flagship show is in association with Peloton, Liverpool Football Club's official cardio and strength partner. Now in 2025, Peloton has gone to another level with its cross-training series. They are now not just a bike or a tread machine, but a full home gym that you can use to complete your routine. The swivel screen allows you to transition easily from a cycling class to a strength or core workout all in one place. They are also now powered by Peloton IQ, your AI personal trainer, which will help you to reach your fitness goals. For more details, go to onepeloton.com, and don't forget, if you're using Peloton, you can join our community by joining the Anfield Wrap team on the app, or just pestering John Gibbons, because I know he loves that as well. We'll dive straight in then, Keo. Hugely important win. I think in the context of the last couple of weeks, they've been pretty tough on and off the pitch, so nice to get back to winning ways in the Premier League.
It's much better winning. I've realised that. It's a tough one to say it's an improvement because people don't want to get carried away, but it has been an improvement. There was a period there where Liverpool lost 3 games by 3 goals on the bounce, and I felt like it was in free fall. And there was people questioning the manager, people questioning where we're going to end up in the league. It seemed to be a really bad situation. Now, although we didn't get the ideal result against Sunderland, and you know the Leeds thing happens at the end, it's been an improvement. Liverpool have gone unbeaten. Liverpool have put a string of results together. They go to San Siro after it, put in a really good performance. And the argument that these players have stopped playing for the manager, or the manager's lost the players because of the situation with Mo Salah, you look at the game at Ellen Road and you look at the game at the weekend, it's a set of players that are fighting for the manager, and the set of players that, dare I say, are starting to look like Liverpool again.
Yeah, 5 games unbeaten now, Jake. I mean, I think for me the most pleasing thing is sort of what Keo alluded to there, is there's been so much noise over the past couple of months about Liverpool maybe not being together, not being behind the manager. It's felt like a little bit of a fractured dressing room from the outside looking in, but I think what the last week, that win against Milan in particular and against Brighton has showed is that there is a real united front now between everyone associated with the club.
Yeah, and that would be your sort of bare minimum expectations as a Liverpool fan, really, wouldn't it? But that was called into question, which I don't think any of us were happy about early or feeling was okay. You know, the circles around that, but that's, for me, it's the bare minimum I expect. But to be fair, they've shown them a sort of vote of confidence with that, and I think that's enough of a basis to go on. I mean, the age-old adage, isn't it, is, you know, if you want to be a good football team, the first thing you do is be hard to beat, and I think that's what we've been the last 3 or 4 weeks, and I still don't think we're back to our squash book and best, to say the least, really, but I think there's enough to go off. Nice solid foundations, and good to see people really starting to come to the forefront again. You know, and kicking on from there again. We'll go on to it, but I thought Ekitike was fantastic again. There's enough for us to get excited about, I think, and that's it's good going into the Christmas period, isn't it? Feeling good, jovial.
Nice bit of festive spirit.
Yeah.
After a pretty dismal autumn for Liverpool. Jake mentioned there about Hugo Ekitike, and I think one of the most pleasing things about Saturday was that Liverpool actually started the game really quickly. They had the quickest goal of the Premier League season until I think West Ham took that crown on Sunday. But I think, frustration for me has been that they've not started games quickly enough. So for them to get that fast start was great, and Hugo Ekitike, I mean, that finish was something special.
It was the finish of someone who scored 2 goals in his last league game and was feeling on top of the world. It was just that control smash, not even thinking about it. That's exactly what you want. And I think the fast start is such an important point. It's something that we've kind of discussed a few times, because in all of those games where Liverpool weren't winning, I don't think they scored the first goal in any of those games. They went behind, and then you go behind, and then you think, oh God, here we go again. And then suddenly the way you're feeling changes, the way you play changes. To score and be in front so early in the game, it just made everybody's shoulders kind of relax a little bit, made everyone run a little bit harder, and made people feel like today is going to be our day. And no one better than Hugo. I love the fact that he seems to be taking shots. Like, I think he got 7 shots in that game, which is more than anyone on any individual players managed so far this season. He's like, give me the ball. I'm going to shoot, I'm going to score, I'm believing in myself. And just the way that he was able to take those opportunities and drive for past defenders and stuff like that, it really told me that, okay, this guy is very much settled in what it takes to be the leader of the Liverpool attack. And everybody else is starting to kind of file in behind him as well.
Yeah, he's been so impressive, Jake, since he came in. And I think, I was a little bit surprised when Liverpool signed him because there'd been a lot of talk, a lot of noise about him, coming into the summer transfer window. But it sort of felt like it was a big leap to go from having one really good season in Germany to coming in for the kind of money that he came in for. And then you obviously have the Alexander Isak saga probably overshadowed a lot. But for him to sort of put all of that, to one side and perform in the way that he has, and particularly this last couple of weeks, the kind of finishes a little bit Torres-esque. I think we've heard a few comparisons over the last couple of weeks, but just a really, really top young player who's got the potential to become even better.
Yeah, I'm with you, really. I was surprised as well. There's not many secrets anymore in football, is there, in this internet age? And there's very clever people writing very clever articles every now and again, you know what I mean, about up-and-comers and things like that. So
we'll pay you later.
Yeah, but he's one that, the big teams have slept on. Obviously, we know we had the period at Paris Saint-Germain, and people think, he was a failure there, but it was Neymar, Messi and Mbappe playing in this position. He was only a young kid. The things he would have learned on the training ground there from them three, being in and around that, is only going to be for his benefit and now our benefit. And yeah, for me, it kind of feels like last of the, almost, not to drag it out too long, but for almost last of the sort of Klopp era signings as well, in the sense that we signed somebody who's about to sort of hit that level. The vibe check's good, I think, as well. He's posting SD Kid tunes.
He's in the Sainsbury's on Rice Lane yesterday.
Here you go, you know what I mean?
All the time for that.
I mean, his burner account on Instagram is just absolutely...
It is. It's the one, innit? I'd say top 5 for me. But yeah, I think, yeah, he feels very much of Liverpool players we're used to seeing, and what's amazing is he's now coming to the forefront. I think it's an interesting one because it's kind of sort of tinged with a negative with the Isak situation, but I think he's ready to be the main man. Just let him go, let him lead, let him flourish.
It's his attitude and the confidence. I mean, you've seen players who have attitude and confidence sometimes it doesn't come across the right way, but with Ekitike, it definitely...
Enough about you and Sunday best, mate.
I just love a good number 9. But I do, and strikers excite people, Jake, they really do excite people. I remember being 15, 16 when we got Torres and was just in love with him. As soon as he went past Benaim and put him on his arse, I was like, wow.
Yeah, I got that vibe.
This is the footballer for me, and I'm feeling similar about Hugo Ekitike than I did when I was 15, 16, watching Fernando Torres. So God knows what the 15, 16-year-old kids are like now watching Hugo Ekitike. They must be just absolutely loving, because you talk about Isak and there's obviously a conversation there about, who should be in the side first and whether they can both play together, etc. Now, we all know what Isak can do. We've seen it. We've seen it against Liverpool many times. But in terms of attributes and tools to the game, I'm looking at Ekitike and he potentially has a bigger ceiling. He's got, he might be faster, he might be stronger, he might have better feet, and he can finish. And like I say, the confidence and the attitude, he's not hiding anywhere. So the ideal situation for me is they both get firing, because if you can get both of them on the pitch and get them both firing, you've got 30 goals from each of them, and you're beating anyone you face. But I just absolutely love him. I see every time I see a compilation of him on social media, I'm watching it, and I say his burner account, I'm obsessed with it. When he popped up in the Rice Lane Sainsbury's at the weekend after
Unbelievable. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
His Megs on set when he took the defend. Arguably could have done a little bit better with the pass for Salah, but you don't see many footballers megging people anymore.
No.
You know what I mean? That's a bit of a lost art.
Yeah.
I love to see it. It's cheeky, innit?
Yeah, just on Isak, Mo, just want to touch on him a little bit, because the sort of the downside, I guess, to Ekitike doing so well is it probably puts more scrutiny on Isak. Obviously comes in as the older player, he comes in as the player with Premier League experience, and at the moment is still really just not at it. I think the thing that's concerned me a little bit is even in his cameos, he's not busting a gut maybe at times, and he's not looking like he's being unlucky. He's not necessarily getting the chances. We saw that great finish against West Ham, but since then there's been very little.
He's not at the races, is he? And I think there is a point where it's a physical situation, but there's a point where it crosses over into a mental situation, as in how much of this is him not being physically right, and how much of this is him not trusting himself to do things, and then playing within himself, and then it becomes more of an issue the more it happens. I just think it's difficult for us to kind of put a moratorium on, okay, you didn't have a pre-season, you haven't been at your physically best, but now you need to be. And there was the moment earlier in the season where Slot was like, well, we can stop talking about that. He's up to speed. And then he got another injury. So it's almost like he's had to kind of start twice. I also think that some of the sympathy he may have got for this whole physical situation has been lessened by the fact it's kind of his fault. Like, he chose to do it this way. And I mean, Liverpool may have been beneficiaries of it. But essentially now, that problem is kind of coming home to roost. And I think Liverpool have to be in a situation now where they say, look, okay, we still need you, because Ekitike is still not playing 90 minutes. I mean, he looked like he couldn't walk when he kind of dragged him off the pitch on 70 minutes. So you still need another striker to be able to play some of the games. But we can't afford to be in a situation where we're geared up to try and get the best out of Isak anymore. Ekitike has absolutely pushed himself to the front of the queue.
I think us as fans will be a lot more worried about Isak long term than the club will be.
Yeah.
I think we're all sitting here dying to see it happen, and there's people who are questioning now whether, you know, have we signed the right player, and should we have signed him after we signed Ekitike? I've seen a lot of questions being asked, but it is a time thing for me. I mean, I've seen Alexander Isak. I've said this already on the show already, but he's a top class striker, and he has been. I know the pre-season argument, but he hasn't had a full pre-season. He has been in a Liverpool side that's been really, really struggling to create in recent weeks. And I think people have got this sort of belief that they're going to see another Bobby Firmino, someone that's going to touch the ball every couple of minutes, someone who's going to beat players, someone who's going to, you know, be that type of number 9, when he's not. He's a number 9 that's going to pop up and probably get 3 chances a game and take one of them.
That's the thing for me, mate.
That's what we need to be prepared for.
I don't think we've played to his strengths at all. I don't think he's played enough games for us to learn what his strengths are, if you know what I mean. And our sort of team's been transient. You know, to get the best out of him when Tony Gordon's sprinting down the wing and pulling it back to him. You've seen the one-time Gakpo was actually done that this season. We scored a goal, didn't we? And, you know, Gibbons wrapping it into his feet, you know, on the turnover as quick as possible. He takes a touch, he finishes. The goal against us, where he just, Van Dijk's head still spinning somewhere, isn't it? Yeah. He puts it in the top in. I don't think we move the ball that quick, ever. And it's the reason why Ekitike, apart from just taking his opportunities and maybe working a little bit harder, has worked a bit more as a build-up plays, a bit neater. I just don't think, for me, Isak makes that Anelka run, you know, in between the centre half and the full back, and he's in one touch goal. Very rarely see him score a goal where he's took more than 2 or 3 touches. That's
the type of goal we are seeing. One thing I will say, and a lot of people will probably agree with, we do want to see a little bit more work from him. And although he's not going to be the striker that's in the pocket and getting loads of little touches and beating loads of players, if your team's not playing well, we've had this with Mo Salah in recent weeks, and this is why the controversy started. If your team's not playing well and your team's not winning, when you come on, I want to see you sprinting around, chasing balls down. I don't want to see you hiding behind centre halves. You want to see work rate. If you're not going to score or assist, I want you coming off with your shirt soaked in sweat and your legs covered in mud.
And Hugo's been doing that. Yeah. I think even in the time when he went through that 8 games without scoring goals, he was putting the shift in. Like, I remember City away, he came off and he just looked like he was wet through, but he looked like he was completely drained. He'd been working hard, and Leeds away as well, like, had 3 centre halves that were basically taking it in turns to just batter into the back of him, and he held it up and he held his own, and now he's getting the rewards from that. So you're absolutely right, Kieran. I think that part, if you aren't doing the other things, that part is almost a non-negotiable. So the fact that he's not doing that either, I think, is putting more pressure on what else he's not doing.
Yeah, it was funny actually on Saturday, because I asked Slot after the game about Ekitike, and he asked to be substituted, and he looked absolutely shattered. And I said to Slot, was it an injury? Was he just tired? And Slot just laughed, and he basically said he had nothing left to give, and he'd given it all. And I think, like you guys say, that's what you want to see from every Liverpool player, including Isak. But a Liverpool player who has had to deal with criticism and has bounced back from it in style this season is Curtis Jones. I want to just talk a little bit about him. I thought he was immense on Saturday. Really, really good Mo. He has been for the last couple of times he's been in the team. I think one thing, it's nothing new with Curtis, but I think one thing I really, really did notice on Saturday was how often he was shown for the ball, how often he was not just shown for the ball, but demanding the ball, whether that meant dropping into defence, popping up in all these little pockets, and you can tell when he's in this vein of form, he loves playing football, and he wants to be on the ball as much as possible. And I think at a time when this team needs leaders, he is stepping up.
Absolutely. The thing that keeps coming back to me when I watch him play at the moment is responsibility. Responsibility to, like you say, want the ball, be brave, be the one who wants to make something happen, but also understand what his role is in the team now. Because with this recent switch where McAllister's now more advanced and he is the one who's having to do the all action, think about attack and think about defence role, he is so much more suited to him. It feels like he wants everything on his plate. He said, give me all of the opportunities and I'll do it. And he's really, really come on. I think it's funny, we all kind of talk about the player interview that happened a couple of weeks ago, but his interview the week before, we're in the shit, we've got to get out of it.
Yeah.
I really think that was the catalyst for what we're seeing right now. There's been more fights from everyone since then, and him in particular. And the thing about what he said was, you can't say that and then go onto the pitch and hide. And he knows that more than anyone. So it's almost as if he's been wanting to back that chat up with every single performance we've seen since then. And I hope, I touch wood, I hope this is the time where he really does make his mark and keep his place in the side and keep himself fit, because this really could be something if we can have a whole season of him playing like this.
Yeah, I think one thing as well, Jake, is that his relationship with Florian Wirtz seems to be developing a little bit, and I think, listen, we're still waiting for Wirtz to really announce himself in the way that we all hoped he would when he came in the summer. But I've been pretty impressed with him the past few weeks. I think you can see him sort of growing in stature and influence, and it just seems like now he's starting to build those relationships with Curtis Jones and with Ekitike as well, which is nice to see.
Yeah, but they're both five-a-side players, aren't they?
Yeah.
You can imagine them just bopping the ball to each other and saying, and I think that there's just a normal sort of football relationship that'll come between that too. I think going back to Curtis for a second, I think he's potentially the one who's benefited the most from this new shape. I'm personally not sold on it as like a long-term thing. I think it might just be a case of sorting out problems, as we found them. Whether he'll do it long-term, who knows? I think it'll depend on the two forward situation more than anything else. But
the January window.
Yeah, but Curtis, the one who benefited the most. I think he's got a bit more responsibility in there, as we say. Maybe a little bit more protection around them as well, and to play into Wirtz, and for them sort of coming off the left-hand side a little bit, aren't they, and cutting inside, and it's nice to see, and it's fluid. And I'm with Mo. I think he's had a couple of opportunities, Curtis, where he's been unlucky, where it kind of felt like, oh, that's his time now. And then the last season against Chelsea, he was outstanding.
Yeah.
As good as a midfield performance as I've seen at Anfield in some time, and there's been a lot of them, hasn't there? He was as good as anyone that day, and I thought, right, okay, this is Curtis Jones' time now. Didn't quite kick on. I don't think he's ever really put a string of 6 or 7 top performances in, really. And
quite a few niggly injuries.
that's his suspensions as well.
Because of injuries.
Yeah, and then he was having a stormer against Spurs as well, that Diaz game a couple of seasons ago, and then he got sent off, and it was never a sending off. He's had a couple of those situations, and listen, let's get it right as well. He's had, in the recent history, McAllister and Gravenberch playing in his position, who were 2 international quality players, who were tough to move out the way, but go back to that Gerrard additive. They're in my space, and you're going to have to move them out the way. And I think it's now Curtis' time just to push them out the way and get in there.
Gerrard also said, though, didn't he, when he talked about Curtis and when he moved up, and that he won't let you down if you sort out a couple of things that he had as a youngster. And he come into Klopp's side, and I think it's fair to say he has improved year on year, and he's had his critics, Curtis Jones, and up until very, very recently, probably still people criticising him now, but every manager that's ever worked with him loves him, even in the England setup. Every player that's ever played with him talks about his quality. And there's been obviously things to his game which he needs to learn, but that's normal for any young player coming.
People forget he never played centre mid till late as well.
Exactly, and he's come in not just to a Liverpool side, he's come into a Jurgen Klopp Liverpool side that is full of superstars, full of big games, full of big results, and full of winning trophies. I think he has come of age a little bit, to be honest, and I noticed a big shift in him when he had his baby.
Yeah.
He just seemed to grow up low. He changed the way he dressed. He dropped the Nike Tech fleeces, and all of a sudden he's dressing a little bit smarter. Yeah. Everything he seems to do seems to be a lot more focused and composed. And I love him as a footballer. Really love him as a footballer. And I think there's more than a place for him, not just in Liverpool squad, but in Liverpool starting 11, depending on who we're playing against. He controls the tempo a lot, and he does a lot of things. It's a cliche, but he does a lot of things that people don't notice.
Yeah.
I mean, he knows when to go left to right. He knows when to slow the game down, when to speed the game up. He's a very intelligent footballer. And this thing about holding on to the ball too long, I've noticed a few times that Curtis invites players into him because he knows he can beat them, and he creates space behind them players sometimes. You've got 2-3 players around him, either come out the other side or he'll find a little flick or a pass, which opens the whole game up. So, yeah, he has his critics, and I'm sure there'll still be some of them out there. And there's a bit of a thing around, you know, does he get back so much because he's a Scouser? Well, you can't be backed by football managers just because of where you come from. You get put into football sides based on how good you are, ability-wise. And for me, yeah, it does make it better that he's from Liverpool. I think we do need a local lad in the side, and I think that when things have happened recently, like you're losing games after game after game, you need a Scouser to come out and say, this isn't happening. I'm going to say something in the changing rooms here. And it made me feel better. And you could see that he was angry, and you could see that he wanted to say something. And then he backs it up at the weekend and goes and puts in a performance like that. I think that's 200 games for Liverpool now. That's a lot of football games.
I thought it was quite interesting, actually. I think it was after the Milan game. He actually referenced the fact that people criticise him for holding on to the game too long, holding on to the ball too long. And I thought, you know, the fact that he's pointed that out, he obviously knows what people have said about him. He knows that is maybe something that he's maybe been guilty of at times, and something that he wants to work on. And he also got asked about the change in system, and he said, it works because I'm playing in it.
Yeah.
And it was very tongue in cheek. It was very cheeky. It was very Scouse.
Yeah.
But I think that is the sort of the confidence, the mentality that Liverpool need at the moment, and long may it continue. Well, we've managed to go nearly 20 minutes there without talking about a certain Mohamed Salah, and we're going to get on to him now. Mo, I think in a way, the way that it happened on Saturday, there was obviously so much talk about, you know, does he bring him on at all? Does he bring him on for 5 minutes? If he brings him on for 5 minutes, is that a farewell? If he leaves him on the bench, is that a farewell? And I think actually the way that it happened, obviously coming on for Joe Gomez, who, you know, it's a real shame to see him pick up another injury. We'll get onto that a little bit more later on. But, you know, I think that the way that he was introduced sort of minimised the drama, and it was nice then just to see him be able to play, you know, 2/3 of a game and play quite well.
I agree. The one thing that I didn't expect before the game was for when he came on, for it to not really be about him.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was everyone was more thinking about Joe at that moment and just thinking, oh God, not again, because he's been so good and because right back is such a problem issue at the moment. So it was almost an afterthought. I mean, from where we were, I was sat up next to the LFC TV guys and next to Aldo, and we were trying to work out who was coming on because it was clear that Joe was going to have to be substituting, thinking who is it going to be, Calvin Ramsey? And you look down and you see Salah, and Aldo literally just stood up as if to say, "What?" It was like a WWE moment. It's fantastic.
Would have been quite funny if
Absolutely.
Attitude here at 100%.
He's got a career.
It would have been quite funny if he'd have sent him on at right back, wouldn't it? That would have been it.
Yeah, but when he was on, I think once the football started, you could really sense that it was almost as if there was no special, oh, I'm going to do it like this, or I'm going to prove this, or I'm going to prove that. It was just a player wanting to work for his team, wanting to get the result for his team. I think that was probably the most impressive thing for me. I didn't think like it made it about himself.
I did see a bit of a change in how he was playing. I think he come on, he seemed less selfish, to be honest, with the ball. I noticed it. He was playing a lot of one-touch passes. He was playing a lot of through balls and stuff like that. And obviously the work rate was there as well. And there was a moment where he tracked back and his face is busting a gut. And I was thinking, this is what we want.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I meant in as much as he was just like another player. Yeah. He was trying to say that my job here is not to win the game for Mo Salah or to do something to get everyone to talk about Mo Salah. My game here is to make sure Liverpool win this game and do everything that's possible. And yeah, it was interesting that by the time we got to the end of the game and the result felt a little bit more secure, then some of his teammates were like, well, let's see if we can get you a goal as well.
The only thing missing, wasn't it?
Yeah. I always think it's so funny because we were talking before about unity and stuff like that. And there's no doubt that I think some of the players from when we've spoken to them have felt a little bit affronted by the fact that the unity has been called into question, because you can have disagreements. And yeah, I'm sure some of the players would have disagreed with what he said and the way that he came out and the fallout since then. But disagreements like that happen in dressing rooms all the time, and they'd have probably got over it a lot quicker than everyone else did and got back down to the business of, okay, how do we win football matches? So to be able to see that in action on the pitch, I think was a really important moment as well.
Yeah, I think for me, Jake, it was a performance that kind of showed the dilemma that Slot has at the moment with Salah, because I thought he did play well. Really unlucky he didn't get an assist within his first minute of being on. I'm not quite sure why McAllister didn't shoot there. He plays him in, really nicely. And there were some really nice moments. He gets the assist, obviously, for Ekitike. So you see that quality is still there. You see that the desire, the work rate is still there, which to me suggests that he should be sticking around. But then, also he misses that chance late on. He overhits a couple of passes, which you think, last season he would have been playing straight to someone's feet. And I think it was a performance for me that showed that, he's no longer untouchable. He shouldn't be untouchable. He's a 33-year-old footballer who is, maybe past the peak of his powers, but he still has an awful lot to contribute to this team.
Yeah, I think you got to see the sort of best and maybe not the worst, but the things not quite as good as him. There's a couple of times where you think of Mo Salah yesteryear with a bit more of a Scouse Ketwig. He would have been bombing on a bit more, you know what I mean? He would have been kind of breaking the lines a bit more, but the work rate's there. I think the passion's still there, and the thing for me is what hasn't really been spoken about too much, or at least I've not kind of seen it, is I think he played like somebody who wants to play for Liverpool. He played for somebody who wants to earn his spot back in the team, and I think, a lot was made about his comments, and quite rightly so, because it was damning. But the thing that came across to me is that he wants to play. He wants to play for Liverpool, and he signed for 2 years. He wants to commit the next 2 years of his career, which is basically the rest of his career, at Anfield, and that's what he's playing for, and maybe he's felt, he's other sort of things are going on in the background or whatnot. But for me, I think he wants to stay, and I think he was proved that Saturday.
It's also the reason why his teammates, the manager, and us as fans will be able to get over it and be able to look back at it, because if this was a player who was doing all this to force a way out of the club, if this was a player coming out publicly saying, like Isak did in the summer, and that there's a reason Newcastle fans don't like him for that, then it'd be a bit of a different story. But when you look back and you go, like, most bang out of order for coming out and saying what he said and how he said it, but ultimately it sounds like a man that wants to play for Liverpool, and if he puts in performances like that and works for the manager in the way that he's been told, then we've still got a hell of a football on our hands. I looked at him at the weekend and thought, that's exactly what I want. And the manager said that after the game in his press conference. I think we all seen the most out of that we want. And it's fine to say that we haven't seen him in recent weeks. He has been spitting his dummy out a little bit. He has been putting in performances below what we expect from him. But we can move past it. We haven't got to have a big line in the sand where we say, right, you pick a side, manager or Salah, and one of them has got to go. That's not the way it's going to be, and hopefully that's the way it's not happening right now. He goes to AFCON, then he comes back and he gets into the side, and if he doesn't play every single week, then I want him to come off the bench and be ready when he does.
There are people who you love who do stupid things, and you forgive them. Look, it's Christmas time. We're all going to be spending time with our family. I'm not going to put the boot in because it was her birthday yesterday, but my sister does my edit, but I still love her. And I feel like it's the same within the dressing room. I feel like it should be the same within the fan base. There are things we do where you're like, yeah, I wish you didn't do that. There's probably going to have to be some kind of consequences for that. But ultimately, that one decision does not mean that you are cast out forever. And the talk of it changing his legacy and all that kind of stuff was just well overblown for me. I think we can get to a situation, as Keo said, that once we get time beyond it, everybody can work in the same direction, and it looks like he's still willing to be part of it. I think the crux for me, and he still wants to play for Liverpool, is is he able to accept not always playing for Liverpool? Is it going to be a case of, well, I want to play, but I want to always play, and if I'm not going to always play here, then maybe I'm going to look at something else. That's kind of the dividing line where it sits for me. If he's happy to still play a lot, but just not be automatically in the team, then I think that there's still a lot that he can give.
If that's true though, that's okay. Just don't be coming out in the press and trying to unsettle things, after a bit of a disappointing result in the middle of a season. If it gets to the summer, you have a conversation with the manager and say, I expected to play every week here, and I'm not now. I think the best thing for me to stay at this level is to go and play every week somewhere. I'd hold my hands up and say, you know what, Mo? You're one of my most favourite Liverpool players of all time. You go and play with it. Go and play in the MLS.
Yeah.
Gerrard done as well, to be honest. Gerrard went to LA Galaxy.
That feels like it could be the time, because that's, for me, it doesn't feel like quite the time now. But just to play devil's advocate slightly, I think from the club's point of view though as well, they'll probably want him playing every minute because they don't want a lad on £400,000 a week. So that's on the bench.
This is another conversation. There might be like people above him saying, look, we've had a hell of an investment here. You don't just drop him, you get him in, you get him playing.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
We need goals.
The way I'd see it counteract that though is there's the one investment in his wages against the investment in Ekitike, Isak and Wirtz. And this is something I keep kind of referring back to. Salah is still just about the Liverpool present. Those three are the future.
Yeah.
Those three need to be prioritised right now. If it's the push between making a team that suits Mo Salah and making a team that suits those three, I'm picking those three every single time. And that is where that is what Salah needs to be able to understand and comprehend. And yes, I still think he will play a lot of games in that situation, just maybe not as much as he's used to.
Yeah, I felt before the match, Jake, that it possibly would be his last game for Liverpool. I think, that there was a sense that obviously, and this still is the case, that there's going to be more conversations over the next few weeks with his agent, with the club's hierarchy. The manager said he's not got any issue to resolve, but I think it does come back to that argument that Mo said about, is he happy to sort of swallow his pride a little bit and accept that he's not starting every single game between now and the end of the season. I think that will be a big factor. And, I tried to sort of be a bit of a body language expert on Saturday. I'm sure a lot of people did.
Fan a whistle.
Well, so even before, I saw the video of him walking in, and I think he got a little bit of stick on Sky maybe because he didn't look very happy. And I don't think he did look happy, to be fair, but maybe reading too much into that. I did think it was quite noticeable when they came out to warm up. He sort of took a minute. Obviously, the subs go off to sort of one part of the pitch. The players in this starting 11 go off to the other, and they start the warm up. And Mo, for a minute, just didn't go with either of them. Just sort of stood, on the edge of the 18-yard box in front of the Kop and was just sort of by himself for a minute.
Can't bring himself to
yeah,
doing the
and I didn't think, was that a moment where he was sort of saying, right, I'm taking a moment to sort of soak all of this in? Was it a moment of, I'm being a bit of a drama queen here and I want all the cameras to point at me? I think that was personally what it probably was. I think Mo is someone who likes to be the story, whether that's on the pitch or off the pitch. And listen, that's a big part of why he's been successful for Liverpool. But the post-match, the body language, to me, it didn't seem like a goodbye. I think he would have been a bit more emotional, maybe.
But at the same time, I was the same as you. I was watching it like a hawk when the whistle went and I stayed to see it. And he does do a bit of a walk around, but there's a couple of players behind him, so he's not completely on his own. But then Van Dijk sort of walks off, and he does have a little bit of a moment in front of the Kop, which he doesn't normally do. Now, that's not to say...
He probably doesn't know himself, does he?
Well, yeah, but he doesn't, and I think there was a bit of a just in case here. Like, I want to do some sort of gesture, like, just in case, but at the same time, it might just be a case of he's had a load of stick in recent weeks, and he's now the Kop singing his name, and he's going off for a couple of weeks. If he walked off the pitch, it would have sparked a bit of a fire. But he clapped and he touched the bags like that before he walks off. So sorry, Andy, I just patted the mic there.
Andy's ears fell off there. But listen, I think if we're going to be grown up about it though, and like football's all about emotion, I never want to take the emotion out of it because that's one of the reasons why I still love supporting Liverpool and I have done my whole life. But if you take emotion out of it, it's as simple as this. He's probably saying, listen, I want to play, otherwise I'm getting off. And Liverpool are thinking, well, start scoring goals and you'll start playing. Or if somebody offers us X amount, you probably are going to go, because then we're going to start thinking about the players who are going to put it on, Isak said. You know what I mean? And that's ultimately where we are. And whether that happens in January, July, or the following January, at some point it probably is going to happen. It's just when it happens.
Does anyone know if his mum came in, by the way?
His family, I know his family were there, but I don't know what the family entails. I don't know whether that was just his wife and kids who goes to pretty much every game, or whether it was, I'm not quite sure.
See, the stuff before the game, because I was also watching, it felt a little bit to me like he was worried that some people might not give him a good reception. So he was almost trying to kind of stick a toe in the water and see how it went, but he did. Like, you notably got a good reception when he left the warm-up and when he was called out amongst the subs and when he came on and all that kind of stuff. But if you analyse him after the game, so after the Leeds, that felt like a goodbye.
There was a lot of waves.
The double-handed waves.
Yeah.
That very much felt like goodbye. This time, slightly less so.
Yeah, he did walk through the mix zone after the game, and he was in quite good spirits.
Everyone's like that.
Yeah.
he made a bit of a joke, didn't
Yeah, he sort of looked over and he went, "Oh no!" And then someone said, "Oh, you've got 2 minutes." He went, 2 weeks in a row, no, and he was laughing, and I sort of thought, to me, if he knew categorically that was going to be his last game, I think he would have been a little bit more emotional, and I think he would have probably said something, whether that be to the media, whether that be on social media. I think there's maybe still, obviously, there's going to be discussions, maybe there is an element of him that doesn't know, but I think whereas I categorically did feel in the week that it was possibly going to be his last game, I don't quite feel with that strength of feeling now.
I did, leading up to the game, I was thinking, because there was a bit of a news story last week about, Slot hadn't spoken to him for about 5 or 6 days and they're going to have a meeting on Friday and stuff. And the way I felt was the manager and the club would have to some sort of public apology here. And that's I thought the way it would go. And if Salah doesn't do one, then it might end up going down a road that we don't want it to do. I actually think Slot handled it really well.
Yeah, me too.
Even if that is Mo Salah's last game, Slot's shown respect. He's put him in the side, in the squad, brought him on, allowed him to perform, and got a reception at the end. If it's not his last game, he's put him back in the squad. He's got him on, and he's got him playing. So regardless of what the outcome is, I think the manager's handled it really, really well.
Classy, Annie.
Yeah.
I think he's been super classy.
Quick fire just to wrap this part up, Mo. Do you think he stays or he goes?
Stays.
Jake?
Well, he goes eventually.
I was about to say when in January.
January.
I think he'll stay January.
I think he'll stay now, yeah.
I think that's what everyone of a Liverpool persuasion probably hopes for. But now we've got a chat with Matt Parish from the LFC Foundation to talk about the 2025 LFC Foundation Impact Report.
It's John Gibbons, and I'm joined in our studio once again by the CEO of the LFC Foundation, Matt Parish. Matt, thanks for coming in to see us again.
No problem, thanks for having us.
And we're here to talk about, another fantastic year for the Foundation, and that's been really brought home in the impact report that you've just released. So first of all, before we talk about the contents, why is it you wanted to start doing these impact reports, and why is it that you feel it's important?
Yeah, it's a good question. So this is our 5th year of doing the impact report in this way, and I think when I first came to the foundation back in 2019, like a lot of club foundations and charities in general, but club foundations at that time, we were doing an overview and we were talking about the numbers, which was fine, but were we monitoring it that closely? And it was sort of counting lists, basically. So we looked at it and we said, well, ultimately, all of our delivery is on the back of either us receiving a grant or a supporter making a donation. So every fan that comes to a Legends game and buys a ticket, that's a donation to us in effect. And we want to make sure we're using that in the right way. It's important that we use it where we're having most impact. So we started working and we still work with them, with an independent organisation called Substance. So that's the other thing. It's not us saying that's the numbers we've reached and that's the social value. It's independently done. So I think it was about transparency. It was about us being able to say to our partners and stakeholders, but also perhaps even more importantly, the fans, these are the numbers we've worked with, this is the impact we've had, and you can trust it. It's not just us saying it. And to be honest, within the sector, monitoring was a bit flaky, still is at times, and we can sort of say we're the leaders in that space in our sector. As I said, it's not necessarily the highest bar, but I think it's important that we know. And then the final bit is we can monitor: are we growing? Are we increasing our impact? And the great thing is we are on both.
Well, yeah, the numbers are fantastic, the headline figures. Is there anything in particular that really pleases you from what's come out of the report?
I think there's lots, but I think it's perhaps the impact in terms of locally on healthcare savings. So if you think of the juxtaposition, I think sadly we do a lot of work with Professor Matt Ashton, who's the Director of Public Health in Liverpool, and a Big Red.
Matt Spinelli's done the show.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was talking to him last week. He's on our advisory board, and they met last week. And sadly, Liverpool's second in the league you want to be bottom of. So in health inequalities, Liverpool's now second, only behind Blackpool, sadly both in the northwest of England. So health inequalities in our city are poor, and there's that stat about, and I don't know the exact details, but something about if you live in the comparison between a man, I say our age, John, I'm a little bit older, but an adult male's life expectancy in Kensington in London to compare to Kensington in Liverpool is something like an 8-10 year swing, and that's just not right, is it? So obviously we work primarily with young people, and can we sort of support young people in their making better choices and around education but basically health improvement, and I think it's circa 50 million, over 50 million worth of healthcare savings from the value of our work just in the Liverpool City region last year. So that is pretty pleasing, or very pleasing, and being able to support over 140,000 individuals last year is it's not to be sniffed at.
Yeah, there's so many people who benefited from the work that you do day in, day out, both in the city and beyond, but also a lot of external organisations who you've helped support. Can you tell us about a few of those? Because it's not just about the work the foundation do, it's the incredible work the foundation do, it's all these other organisations that you're able to support as well.
Yeah, and I think that's probably also gives us a uniqueness to perhaps some other club foundations. Actually we just, a couple of days ago, we announced that through the match-worn shirts and the auction of match-worn shirts, there was a percentage of that Virgil and the players were really keen that the percentage of it went to charity, and they basically, Virgil said to us that what charities do you work with, and he supports charities himself, and he's been here for some time, so on the back of that we're getting some funding to develop some new child-focused programs, but also support the McVeigh Foundation, Alder Hey Children's Charity, to different ends, if you like, of the charity sector. Alder Hey, is a sort of pillar of the city and the region, and supports so many young people. And the McVeigh Foundation, something close to Liverpool fans' hearts, but B, do some amazing work supporting families whose children are suffering from cancer in the city. So it ranges. We also do things like Forever Reds, the Former Players Association, sits inside the foundation. And part of that is the care of former players, but also they then in turn support local charities close to their heart. So they've supported in the last couple of years Hills of Survivors Association and the counselling work they do. Alder Hey again, I think they're looking at supporting maybe Liverpool Women's, and it's a real mix. But I think that there's a lot of need in our region, but there's also lots of good people doing some great stuff, and there's some amazing charities. And how can we use that? I can't point at the badge on the chest, but how can we use that Liverpool sort of the power of the club to support not only our work but also their work too? Yeah,
and I think the Owen McVeigh Foundation is a really good example of what the club can do, because I've met Mark a few times and spoken to him, and I don't think he was ever expecting Liverpool to come on board and A, offer to help, but B, for it to go on for so long. It's a long-term partnership now, and what you've been able to do is amplify what they do and get more eyes on it, get more funding towards it, but it's really kept the essence of what it's about. It's not been took over by Liverpool. Everyone knows that it's a family-run organisation. They know why it was set up, and so they've been able to retain that essence of what they're all about, but just on a much bigger scale because of you guys, and I think that's a fantastic thing.
Yeah, and I think that I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think Mark and Joanne still run it. They've got other people involved. Eddie, who's a Force of Nature, is sort of one of the key staff that works for him. He's actually a Blue, so but that's another good thing that they're now there's a flag flying Hill Dickinson now, and it's a blue flag, and supporting the McVeigh Foundation, but I think you're right. I think it's that. How do we use, rather than us come in and say, we can't work with that, it must be all about us. How do we use what we can do to support them to do more? We've just been supported by Legacy Development, but they've supported us, they supported Alder Hey, and they've supported the Inclusive Hub. So again, 3 different charities who are all doing slightly different things. We've just done the Red Neighbours Community Fund. The organisations that have got grants are getting notified sort of over this week actually, and that's all about youth, community, and charity groups in L4, 5, and 6 around the stadium. So again, it's not just about us doing, because a charity that's doing particular work in a particular area of a particular group of participants, they're going to have far more knowledge about that than we might do, but we might be able to access funding to help them to do more. And that's, again, why people look at our beneficiary numbers and think, God, 140, that's a lot of, but that's not all us delivering, that's sometimes us supporting another organisation to do.
The impact report also talks about the future as well, lays out the next 5 years. So what are the aims for the foundation? What do you want to do? Is it you're going to reach more people, I guess, but
Yeah.
you know, a bit broader than that?
Yeah, and I think look, we're the charity of Liverpool Football Club. So when we sort of, I suppose, achieved what we set out to do last year, our first 5-year strategy, we went to trustees and said we've done that. It was sort of well done, pat on the back, and congratulations. But then, I say Liverpool being Liverpool, it was like, what's next? And we could have just sort of tried to keep growing incrementally, but I think there was a big focus, and I know, John, we've spoken about it, that we had to do more here. We had to develop that, and rightly so, and we have, and we still will look to grow that. But also, I think we shouldn't be ashamed, and again, I've said it before here, we shouldn't be ashamed that we're the Foundation Liverpool Football Club. It's a global club. So can we develop what we do internationally? So I suppose the headline is, so the trustees said, right, go away, what's your focus? We feel it's tackling social inequality. We, rather than talking about 40 different projects, what areas are you looking to? So it's in employability. How do we help more young people get into jobs, or be ready and able to get into jobs and take opportunities? How do we support, improve the health inequalities in our area, and how do we champion learning? So as an example, we're now in over 30 high schools in Liverpool City region, North Wales, but in Cheshire, with a member of staff at least 1 day a week full time working with kids at risk of dropping out of full time education. So Liverpool City on its own, not the 6 boroughs, not the region, roughly 12,500 kids absent every day from school. That's the cop in it, roughly.
Yeah.
That's, again, not right, is it? And those kids, once you drop out of sort of mainstream education, your life chances are challenged, you know. So can we work with schools, with the amazing teachers in our schools, to give them some help to keep kids in school and then get a better education? So basically, can we do more of that? That's our target. From a, I suppose, big numbers perspective, the team works out, we think, if we grow this way, we can support about 300,000 people a year by 2030. The trustees have said, great, can you make it 500,000? So yes, but this is where we need to develop more partnerships. We need to work more with our fans to enable us to do that and to be able to support more people both here and internationally.
So you mentioned the fans there. How do we support the foundation? You know, for people who are watching this and thinking, oh, this sounds amazing, I'm a Liverpool fan, I want to help. How do they?
The first thing for me is advocacy. You know, find out about what we do, talk about it, be proud of it. You can be. I think supporters and fans can be proud of the work that their club is doing in the community. And then come to a Legends game, come to an event. You know, every purchase of a ticket at a Legends game is a donation to us. In effect, all of that money goes to support our work, and it's a reciprocal arrangement. You'll have a great day. Share our stuff on social media, and if you've got if you've got contacts and links and things that in a way that help us do more, you know, to be clear, in those 3 areas, employability, health and learning, then get in touch. And I think but the big thing for me is, I think if we can get that right, you know, I don't know if it's quite right, but I've seen a stat that there's 1 billion Liverpool fans around the world. I don't know how that's worked out, but there's a lot. And if they can all be talking about the work the foundations do, if they all share it once on social media, then more people are aware of us, but more importantly, more people get a greater understanding of what we do, which will enable us to develop more partnerships and then do more and support more people.
Absolutely, yeah. Have a look online of all the great stuff that the foundation do. It is all there on their website. You can also get a link to the community impact report if you want to read a little bit more about what me and Matt have talked about this morning. Those fantastic numbers of number of people they've helped in the city, and also the plans that we're going to hold Matt to for the next 5 years are all there and well. I do try and support the events that are going on throughout the year, because it all goes to help deliver these amazing things that they're doing across the city and beyond. So Matt mentioned the Legends game there. I'll give a shout out to Kip on the Cop. I've done the last 2. We want more people. John Bishop's going to be driving that because he's so passionate about it, and that helps the foundation and Liverpool Homeless FC as well. But there's all sorts of events. There's ones that take place in August and things like that. So just make sure that you're following the foundation on social media. They'll be letting you know what's going on and ways that you can support. But Matt, lovely to see you.
Thank you, John.
Thanks
Good
very much, and congratulations on everything that you've done this year.
Thank you. Cheers, John.
Well, thank you to Matt there from the LFC Foundation. Now, Liverpool have a whole week off, Mo, which is nice. I mean, it's nice not to have to go to a game and press conferences midweek. It feels like it's been a long time since we've had that luxury.
I mean, I'm ruining it by going to Old Trafford tonight.
Well, that's your own fault.
Yeah, it is.
So it could be useful though for Liverpool because the injuries are mounting. We mentioned Joe Gomez earlier on. Right back is a worry. Obviously, Conor Bradley will be back from suspension, which is good, but nice an opportunity for some players to maybe get a little bit closer to returning, and also for the manager to do a little bit of work on the training pitch.
I think so. I think you saw towards the end of the game there were points where Liverpool really needed some luck to get the clean sheet, and that was because a lot of them were out on their feet. Szoboszlai, I don't know what happened. I think he got an ankle knock, and then after that I thought he was done, and then somehow he came back onto the pitch and ran around for another 15 minutes or so. We mentioned Ekitike. There were a few others who look like they've given everything, and the fact that Liverpool have been showing so much fight and the intensity's kind of come back in the game in the last couple of games, on top of the fact that there's so few of them fit, gives them even more credit. But like you say, it means they really, really need that extra time and rest. And Stewart was asked about the kind of time on the training pitch before, and he was very much like, yeah, it'll be great, but I also think they just need some time to do nothing. There's definitely going to be some Instagram posts and players with feet up in front of the telly at some point this week.
Watching a Channel 5 Christmas film.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
As long as he's not in Ocean Beach again.
I just hope that none of them are being dragged around Chester Oaks and being asked to buy Christmas presents right now. Maybe there's another time for that. But yeah, I just think that there are a few things that are working but need more work. So the left side I thought really worked well. I thought Kirkes, Wirtz, when we didn't have the ball, Wirtz coming back onto the left wing and really doing a diligent job defensively, and Jones kind of coming across. Those three really looked like they were working well. But there were still loads of points where Liverpool had the ball on the right-hand side and Kirkes was in oceans of space and no one saw it. So there are still times when we can really maximise that. And I think they'll be watching film and they'll be pointing those things out and then maybe trying to put them into practice. But you think about Spurs who aren't playing their best football, I think it's fair to say, and then Wolves who could statistically end up being the worst team the Premier League's ever seen. Those two games and then all that space in between them, you could not have really picked it any better when you go and think about how hectic Christmas period normally is. So hopefully Liverpool can take some real benefit from that.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Kirkes actually, and we won't go into it we've not got the time, but I thought he was very good on Saturday and deserves some credit really. He's had a tough time at times in his first few months, but I thought he slowly seems to be getting into the kind of player that Liverpool thought they'd signed. It feels like now, Jake, there is a run that Liverpool could go on where they could build some real momentum. Bear in mind of the 5 games unbeaten. Tottenham, I didn't watch them yesterday, but I believe they were pretty terrible. The scoreline obviously not great, although Liverpool can't really say anything as they also got beat 3-0 by Nottingham Forest. But it feels like they are a club at the moment that are a little bit at war with itself. A lot of the fans want the manager out. If Liverpool get the first goal on Saturday, you can imagine the stadium could turn. They've not been great at home. Then you've got Wolves, who were really unlucky, obviously not to get a result at the Emirates, so you can't write them off. But Liverpool should be beating them. And then you've got, is it Leeds after that, I think? Again at Anfield. I mean, Liverpool should have beaten them comfortably, and they probably would have done were it not for Konaté's error. So it feels like now there is a potential to really make up ground on the top 4, but that comes with a caveat. We've said that a few times this season, and it's not quite happened.
Yeah, it does feel that way, doesn't it? You can't lie when you look at it on paper and you start looking at the build-up and our form and their form, but also long enough in the tooth now to know that that's not how football works. And funny enough, when we've played against, say, the better sides this season, I would say maybe bar Man City performance, I haven't really felt too dismal coming away from the matches. It's those games that have kind of like tripped us up, hasn't it? You think you Leeds, you're not Forest, and there's a few others in there this season, isn't there? But they're the ones who kind of seem to do it. And an injured animal is the most dangerous. I think Thomas Frank will be wanting to prove a point because I think his job will be on the line if he does pick up a couple of results soon. So I think I don't think there's any easy games in the Premier League. It's the age-old adage, isn't it? I think especially now when we're still kind of finding our feet, I would say. What I want to see is maybe being a bit more creative. I think we did have loads of chances on Saturday, but can we be a bit better with them? Can we start working through Verts a bit more? I'm not an XG guy at all, but I did notice on Match of the Day they had higher XG those Brighton than Liverpool. So, you know, that's making me feel negative a little bit. So I think there's a case of we really need to sort of build upon what we've done positively, but also be wary that like this, we're not quite back to where we need to be yet.
Yeah, I think there were definitely, you know, some concerns from Liverpool in terms of the chances that they gave up on Saturday. Arne Slot said himself, because he got asked about, you know, the performance being better, and he actually said, you know, it's funny that you say that, because I actually thought we conceded a lot more chances than we have done in previous weeks. And he's right, you know, he's tried to be positive after some difficult performances and said, well, actually we created a lot, and he got a lot of stick for it. But I think he's right there in the sense that, you know, there was one where I think it was Gomez puts it in the inside netting. That should have been a goal. Matoma flashes one right across the face that doesn't get anyone connecting with it. So there were opportunities for Brighton. Are you concerned by that, or do you think it's sort of one of those, they're a good side, they create chances against everyone, and Liverpool maybe deserve the luck on the day?
I'm concerned every time Liverpool can see chances, but again, where we were at a few weeks ago compared to where we're at now, I didn't expect to flick a switch.
Yeah.
I expected to see, or wanted to see, a set of players and a manager fix things gradually and start to grind out some results, and eventually put a run together. And once the run's together, we can look at the table, and then we can start looking at targets. So I don't expect Liverpool to just, you know, go back to blowing teams away straight away, especially when things did get so bad results-wise. But I think there's a point in which you've got to stop being cautious and got to stop thinking too much about the bad results, because looking at the fixtures, Brighton, Spurs, Wolves, Leeds and Fulham, I want 5 wins there. And I think there's nothing wrong with saying I want 5 wins there. If you go and get 5 wins there, then you can look at the league table. I'm not putting us back in title races or anything like that, but you'll be looking at the teams above you and the teams around you, and you'll be reassessing your targets. It would be an absolute nightmare for Liverpool to put in a better performance against Brighton, but then go to the London Stadium at the weekend and have a nightmare. So you got to take it one game at a time. But if you look at that set of fixtures, the 5 winnable fixtures, and just because you've had a bit of a tough time against Forest, or you've had a bit of a tough time against Sunderland in recent weeks, that doesn't mean that you should be scared of Tottenham. It shouldn't mean you should be scared of Wolves or Leeds or Fulham. We are Liverpool, we are the champions at the end of the day. So 5 wins out of 5 over the Christmas period, there's nothing wrong with saying it, and I expect to see it.
I think the thing for me, the difference between the game on Saturday and recent games is that it was more Brighton doing good things to earn chances rather than Liverpool giving them away chances. So even the Sunderland game, you look at, Liverpool didn't concede a lot of chances, but the chances they did concede were from them doing stupid things. And so Sunderland didn't have to work as hard to score as Brighton did to not score. And yes, Brighton will come away thinking that they should have scored. Like, I was looking at some of the Brighton message boards and stuff. They were furious that they didn't have an actual striker on the pitch until 10 minutes to go. And you think if Daniel Welbeck's in Diego Gomez's position, he probably bags at least one of those. But the fact of the matter is that Liverpool are still looking like more of themselves. I think to be able to have 2 games back-to-back where no one does anything stupid and gives a goal away sounds like a really low bar. But that's where we are. Like,
it's not just that, though. We went to San Siro midweek. Brighton have had a full week to prepare for that game, and now it's an old cliche again to go away in Europe and come back and put a big performance in. But it's hard to do that.
Yes.
And Liverpool battled in the San Siro, and you can see what you like about Inter Milan. The team that's flying in their league and has been playing really well in the Champions League, and we all know it's a really, really tough place to go. So to go and get an away win in the San Siro and then come back to Anfield and keep a clean sheet and win, that's progress, and the manager's just keeping people's feet on the ground there.
Yeah, and I think Brighton is always, historically, is a tough game for Liverpool, hasn't it, the last few years? I can't remember too many comfortable wins against them. Just to round off the show then, obviously, we're approaching the time where we start talking about January transfers. It feels like the injuries have been sort of quietly stacking up. I think obviously Gomez being out, I mean, you would imagine that it'd be out for a couple of weeks at least. It looks like a muscle problem. So, you know, we've got maybe a shortage at right back, although Frimpong should be in the mix sooner rather than later. For me, it's got to be a central defender. That has to be the absolute priority. What would you like to see in January, and what do you think that Liverpool will do?
Wow, how long have you got? I think what I would like to see, and I think a lot's been made about the money that we spent, quite rightly so. You know, we spent quite a lot of money, but we did sell an awful lot of players as well, in key areas. I would say I would like to see us look to address replacing Diaz. I still think we're short of fullback as well, and I know the obvious one, centre half. Don't even need to mention that. I think whether you can get Gahey, you know, he'd be the obvious one, but he's the one that, obviously, no secrets there. He's the one that Liverpool wanted. I think we could be maybe a little bit smart and potentially sign a defender who can do a little bit of fullback as well.
I think that's the most likely.
I think we've been flirting with that for some time now, haven't we?
Arsenal have done it a lot, haven't they, the last few years? They've been the masters at signing centre halves and playing them at fullback, but then, you know, having that versatility has been really useful.
Exactly, and yeah, so, you know, I mean, don't want to give yourself too much to do in January really, but for me, it's replacing, maybe not exactly the position, but replacing some of the things that Diaz give us, i.e. goals, getting us up the pitch, work rate, and then, yeah, plugging gaps at the back.
I'm going to be honest, I think we need a few players, but I don't think there's so much the time to do it. I think you've got a World Cup, which finishes about 2 or 3 weeks before the season starts, and the players are all on an holiday in between that. I don't want to be sitting here on this table this point next year saying they haven't had a pre-season though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'll be honest with you, I think our targets have changed in the league. I think we're looking towards more likely a top 4 finish than we are a title race. Yeah. We'll assess that again in January. So I'd do the shopping now. I'd get the work done now, just like we did in the summer. I mean, you can talk about, you spent 400 million quid, but as Jake said there, a lot of players left the club. So there's a bit of shopping to do. I think the right back or a full back, centre half, and I'd like to see another forward. They're the 3 priorities. I think Semenyo's probably a most likely option because of the buyout clause. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to really be sitting here in the summer stressing about transfers. I'd rather just get them in now and give them the second half of the season, and then we can look at the pre-season next year of a full squad, and, you know, hit the ground running and get back in our eyes on this title.
I agree. I think that when Liverpool spent as much as they did in the summer, they probably would have anticipated having a quiet January. But things have changed to the extent that those plans have to be re-looked at. And I think if you look at if we're just talking about Gahey and Semenyo, one of the problems with January at the moment where we are now is that now that the Champions League group stage goes into January, it's harder for teams to say, oh, well, we're out of Europe, so we may be more likely or willing to give up some of the players. Whereas, obviously, Bournemouth aren't in Europe. They are very much not where they want to be in the league. Palace will probably be able to secure their top 8 place before January. I think their last Conference League group game is this week. So they'll be decided one way or other before January starts. So it's an opportunity if Liverpool have identified those two to be able to go and get those deals done in January, preferably in the first week of January.
Yeah, will be very interesting to see what happens with Gay, won't it? I'm sure Oliver Glasner wouldn't be too happy if Palace were to cash in on him in the January window. I'm sure there'll be plenty of chat about that though in the next few weeks. But for now, thank you very much to Keo, thanks to Jake, thanks to Mo, thanks for Pad for looking after the images, thanks to Andy for looking after the sound, and thank you all for watching. Have a lovely Christmas if we don't see you until then, and we'll see you soon.